You know, Trump says repeatedly, and he said it again during last night's debate, that what has destroyed the economy has been the lockdowns, and he always tries to make it sound like it's the Democrat governors who have done it. The Democrat, not Democratic, the Democrat governors have locked down their states. Well, as is most of the vile bile that comes out of his pie hole, that's bullshit too. You see, the orange ape and his supporters, when they blame restrictions on this drop in business activity, and they claim it's imposed by Democratic governors and mayors, like our mayor here in Atlanta, Mayor Bottoms, who imposed mask restrictions, and the governor, this Republican halfwit, Brian Kemp, sued Keisha Lance Bottoms, the mayor, because she said we want a very strict mask law in the city of Atlanta. Well, the lawsuit was settled out of court. It was dropped by the half-witted governor. And Atlanta, of course, being the largest city in Georgia, there are only about 5 or 6 cities of any consequence anyway, still has the mask ordinance, as do a lot of cities in Georgia, regardless of what this half-witted jerk Brian Kemp tried to destroy. But the right wingers, I don't want to say Republicans, and let me be clear again, I have deep respect for an awful lot of Republicans. Not the Republicans who have been swayed and sucked into the Trump Christian nutcase cult. No. Those are not Republicans, as they're not Christians. That is a blood cult of destruction with Trump sitting at the head of it. And there are millions of people in the United States have decided they want to be part of this destructive blood cult. Okay, that's a free country, as they say. But Republicans who remain Republicans and believe in Republican political doctrine, yeah, I have a lot of problems with a lot of their doctrinaire points of view. However, I also see them as being as legitimate as the Democratic Party. And when the Republicans and the Democrats both present policy ideas that are open to interpretation, then it's up to us, the voters, to interpret what they're offering and make our decision. Yeah, you know this. This is not a lecture in how to vote 101. That's not what this is. I'm just trying to establish that I don't hate all Republicans. Where was I? But the Democratic governors and mayors have been blamed for prolonging this economic crisis caused by a virus. However, as the New York Times points out, the experience of states like Iowa show the economy is far from back to normal, even in Republican-led states like Iowa that have imposed few, if any, restrictions on business. There's been no lockdown for example, in Des Moines. No lockdown in the eateries and the theaters and the movie houses and the sports and entertainment venues. Nothing. No lockdown stood in the way of Des Moines' Oktoberfest, but the celebration was canceled anyway. The company that produced the event for the past 17 years, a spokeswoman said, quote, "We could have done it, absolutely, Oktoberfest. We just couldn't fathom a way that we could produce a festival that was safe," end quote. Exactly. And a growing body of research now. The social scientists are hard at work, have been for the past year, because there are textbook cases being developed here on how to not handle a societal emergency like a pandemic thanks to this sick bastard in the White House. But a growing body of research has concluded that the steep drop in economic activity that began last spring was primarily a result of individual decisions by consumers and businesses that they just didn't want to expose themselves rather than legal mandates. I mean, people stopped going to restaurants before Democratic governors ordered them shut down. Airports. I mean, I live in the city that has the busiest airport on earth, Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Airports emptied out, even though there were never significant restrictions on domestic air travel. But people understood that we're dealing with a pandemic with no national leadership, except for Anthony Fauci and a few other people, medical people, but no political leadership, no president capable, certainly not this orange bastard, no president, no Republican leader capable of setting an example, showing us what to do, insisting that we fight this virus instead of fighting each other. Trump doesn't want your attention diverted into fighting a virus. He wants you to continue to fight each other. Son of a bitch. Ooh. But states like Iowa that had some temporary restrictions, but they reopened very quickly. They with that early opening, they did have a initial uptick in employment and sales. But more cautious states, according to the New York Times, have at least partly closed the gap with the states that shut down and a state like Iowa that did not. They partially closed the gap. These states that did shut down and have seen faster economic rebounds in recent months by many measures. See, this is a part that the orange bastard never mentions. And economists say it's hard, it's difficult, if not impossible, to estimate exactly how much economic activity is still being restrained by capacity limits in restaurants, for example, social distancing rules, 6 feet apart. I mean, my God, it's become second nature almost, right? And similar policies, many of which have been lifted already or loosened, even in places governed by Democrats. And in most states, according to the Times, restaurants, retail stores, and even bars have allowed people to operate. So what the hell is Trump talking about? Well, what Trump is talking about is what he always talks about, this mush-mouthed orange bastard. He has no facts, he has no capacity or ability to lead, so he makes shit up and throws it out there so to be picked up by Sean Hannity and the rest of the swine on the Fox sewer and spread it out to the people who tune into that nasty propaganda operation in Midtown Manhattan. That's why he says it. And again, then there's this, arguably, and it's not a very strong argument against, the most widespread government action that has hindered economic growth is a decision by many school districts. Now, when I say government, I'm referring to school districts, school boards, not federal, not state. This is up to the school boards, or in some cases, the county. But that decision to close school districts and school districts and adopt virtual learning at the start of this past school year appears to have driven many parents, particularly women, out of the labor force, because it's usually women who have to care for young children who would otherwise be in class. And that's another reason that the filthy orange bastard Trump wants to push open the schools. He doesn't give a goddamn about whether or not kids will be infected or die. He doesn't care if teachers get infected or die. He doesn't care if kids take the virus to granny or grandpa or crazy uncle who lives in the attic like Donald Trump and infects them. He doesn't give a shit about that. Human life to Donald Trump is totally negotiable, totally transactional. He has no respect for, and the Christians love him. And the Christian evangelicals worship at the smelly feet of the orange bastard. What is wrong with those people? Don't start, Mike. Don't start. So there's only one conclusion to come to. And business leaders and economists are realizing this. The main thing holding back the economy is not formal restrictions like the orange bastard would have us believe. It's people's continued fear of the virus itself. Duh! So when Trump opens up his filthy, rotten mouth and this orange bastard starts blaming it on the Democrat governors, like, Governor Whitmer up there in Michigan, stand down and stand by, bully boys. Yeah. When he does that, once again, he's talking shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's only trying to rile people up, to get people arguing and fighting and causing chaos so that then he can claim, well, I'm the only one who can stop the chaos. Look what these people are doing. Bastard. The main thing holding back the economy now is not formal restrictions. It's the fear of the virus itself that a rational person carries with him or her. Of course, we're supposed to fear this filthy thing, this virus, in the same way that it's very wise and rational to fear the filthy orange bastard in the White House. The virus and Trump are the two most destructive forces on earth right now, certainly in the United States. And there's no argument about that. None. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.